What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of I'll Call You Right Back podcast with me, your host. I'm Chad Medved. Nice to meet you. Welcome back to another great episode. First thing is first, if you could be so kind, please take a second to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. And if you're feeling extra generous, throw me a like on Facebook and, on YouTube. You know the name. It's I'll Call You Right Back. Just look it up. I'm sure you could find it. We're in the future. I'm sure you could find it. I want to let everyone know because, Turner's Premium Tea, they released some hats a couple months ago, and I wear the hat, and it's in pictures, and some people have messaged me and said, yo, how could I get that hat? And I say, you got to go on turnerdairy.net under the shop. But that hat was sold out for a while. Sold out pretty quick, but I have to let you know that there's 2 new hats online right now at turnerdairy.net or www.turnerdairy.net under the shop, but you could hop on there right now, grab a hat. They're just putting out all kinds of crazy merchandise, and it's all really, really great looking too. It's Thursday today, and they also put out a brand new limited edition it's usually limited edition flavored milk, but this is a little bit different. This is limited edition flavored eggnog. So this is red velvet eggnog. It's nog season, just so you know, and it's nog season for the next couple months. And I know some people are into nog heavy. They got that nog. They got that nog fever. I'm a nog guy, but red velvet, I haven't tried it yet. It hasn't landed in my bodega yet. I'm anxious to try it. Anytime Christmas is around, I'm always getting some Turner's eggnog. It's fire. But this red velvet, I'm not usually a red velvet, I never get a red velvet cake or anything like that. So we'll see how it goes. I'm sure it's going to be great. But check that out. Your local corner store or bodega, if they carry the Turner's products, they might be getting this red velvet eggnog. If they're not getting it, slide up to the front desk, slide them a $5 bill and say, get that red velvet eggnog in here. It's nog season. Okay. But a main thing, not a main thing, but another thing that I wanted to touch on, I'm sure that you've probably heard of it if you have Netflix, but it's called Queen's Gambit. And Queen's Gambit is a show about chess. That's it. It's just a show about chess, and it's fantastic. There's nothing really else to say about it. Just a show about chess. You know what I mean? I can't remember if I talked about it last week, but we finished it, and it's great. It's just a show about chess, but it's really, really well done. Definitely check that out. And, it's just, we're about to be in December. It's crazy to think about that. About to be in December, and where did the year go? Where did the year go? 2020 was here and gone. Couple puzzles, couple sourdough loaves, a bunch of pizzas, and 2020 is gone. And it's wild to think that time is just moving and moving and moving. And quoting the famous Smash Mouth, the years start coming and they don't stop coming. And that's the most real lyrics ever written. But that's where we're at right now. It's about to be a new year, trying to do a lot of good stuff with the podcast. Got some big chapters in my life coming up. I'm excited about it. Got some really great guests coming up. I'm excited about them as well. And we got some new merchandise coming out. So that brings me, that's a perfect segue. I'm a professional, just so you know. New merchandise, perfect segue. Dan Parente is the owner of Revival Print Co. in Lawrenceville. Revival Print Co. is a company that I have been getting all of my merchandise printed from for almost a decade now. And Dan is a fantastic guy. I've worked with him whenever I made clothes, under a different moniker way many years ago. And, I work with him now. He just printed these Turner's I'll Call You Right Back Trick or Treat shirts that everyone, sold me out of. And I was pumped about it. He does great work. That's why I've been with him for as long as I have. There's 1,000 screen printers in the city. It's the only reason I've stuck with him is because he's a great guy to work with. And, like if he wasn't, I could have found another screen printer, but I feel like it says it in itself. But, Dan runs a great shop. He offers numerous services and, embroidery, screen printing, he could do it all. And if you hit him up, and he can't do it, he will find someone to, he'll point you in the right direction. But, in this episode, it was super interesting because like I've been working with him for so long and I know what he does, but, in this episode, we kind of like get to talk about him, on a different level. And like, we talk about him growing up, what it was like. He was homeschooled his whole high school, which was like, it's interesting. Not too many people were homeschooled. And, I didn't know really too much about him in these past like years of us working together. So, it was cool to hear about how he came up and like kind of how he fell into this, career. You know what I mean? He had a store we talk about. He did some random screen printing there, and now he has a very successful company in Lawrenceville. And I urge you to check them out. They're very fair in price. They do very, very great work. And Dan, he's just a good guy. So I'll let you listen to the episode. I'm excited for it. It's been long overdue, and I'm happy that we got to sit down and do it. So without further ado, episode 141 of I'll Call You Right Back podcast with Dan Parente of Revival Print Co.
I gotta use the telephone.
Hello?
Telephone.
I'll call you right back. Call you right back.
Telephone.
I'll Call You Right Back podcast. They're
Sennheisers.
yeah, I mean, like for the price, like you can't beat them. I think each mic was like $100.
Yeah,
like,
right around there.
I had them Sures, that SM38s,
Yeah.
and like those are cool too. Like I don't really like need. Like, you don't really need too much for this. Like, you could, people in metal bands, like, have these and, like, they're throwing them around and, like, they never, like, fail, really.
Yeah.
So I was like, I could buy them, like the mics that Rogan has.
Like a high-end, like, condenser mic or something like that.
Yeah, the condenser mics, but they're, like, they're probably, like, $600 a piece, if not more.
Yeah.
And like, they're going to sound a touch better, but, like, I'm not someone who's, like, very, very critical of, I'm not someone who's very critical of like I'll do an interview outside. I like that dynamic.
Yeah, I listened to like the one with the guy who works at Dirty Harry's.
Mike Cottle.
Yeah.
And like, we were, I was getting into like biking and he is obviously a biking freak and I was like, why don't we just meet? It was like during like the pandemic. So it's like, that was before we knew if we were all going to like turn into zombies or like, how crazy this is going to be. And I was like, let's just meet at the point and like, we'll just do it. There's other podcasters who are like super, super like critical of like their sound and like they don't want any extra noise.
Yeah.
I kind of like that though. I think it adds like a different level of, environment. It's like, it's easier to like picture. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you listen to podcasts?
I definitely do. With doing a lot of like work in my computer and stuff, and like being starting work like early in the morning, like a lot of times I'll definitely put on podcasts and stuff. There's probably about 5 of them that I listen to pretty consistently.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I usually ask people whenever they come in just to like see what people are like, kind of used to. Like a lot of people are like, I've listened to Rogan. I listen to like, it's either like people listen to Rogan and his cult of like friends, like all the comedians, or people are like, I listen to all the murder podcasts and like all like the crime junkies and all that stuff. But
I do listen to Dollop, which has a lot of like those the Dollop. Some of those more bizarre stories.
Super bizarre. They're funny though. I haven't listened to them in a long time. What are the guys' names who run that?
Oh, man. Gareth and
Yeah, Gareth Reynolds.
Yeah, and
I can't remember the other guy, but I know that they've been on
Yeah.
a bunch of like comedians podcasts, and
okay.
and it's funny to listen to what they talk about. But
Yeah.
okay, so I open each podcast with a segment called "What's in the Cup." This thing is, I mean, it's like this is the second podcast in a row that I've had alcohol. I don't really drink, but like these are so good. So, what's in your cup?
Well, what's in my cup is a Rebel hard coffee, and this is the limited edition pumpkin spice latte here.
Yeah, so like I found this the other day. Me and my wife was like, "Oh, I want some pumpkin," and like I was like, "All right." So we went and we looked like 5 different places for that pumpkin, and I don't know what the hype is all about behind it, but everywhere we went, they were like, "Been sold out." Like it's been sold out for a long time. I was like, "All right." So I found this. You know,
Yeah.
it was this was right next to the Pabst hard coffee. Like you ever see those?
Yeah, I've seen them. I can't imagine they taste good at all.
I feel like they're going to taste like a Monster coffee, like one of the Monster
which is-
coffees.
That's rough.
But I saw this and I was like, pumpkin spice latte. So we had this, and you said that I said, "What's your favorite drink?" And you said a latte, and I was
Yeah.
like, I don't want to get him a latte because it'll be cold by the time he gets here. But you were prepared and you brought your own anyway.
Absolutely. I have to start the day with a latte for sure.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite, like a current, like a favorite place you go all the time?
I mean, I try and spread it out a bit. There's Inkwell that I was just telling you about. There's Kelvin Coffee that has a really good one.
Kelvin with the K, right?
Yeah, KLVN. They're up
Yeah.
in like East Liberty, East End area. And then Cafe de More, right down in kind of Upper Lawrenceville. There's also a really good latte.
It's a very interesting place, Lawrenceville, and I've never really like traveled it. Yeah, taste that. Tell me how good that is. It's dangerous.
Wow.
It's like 5% alcohol, and you could just rip them down. Like, it doesn't taste like alcohol whatsoever. But Lawrenceville is such like an interesting place. I never really like frequented over there. You know, if I did go over there, it was like before I started riding my bike. I think the only time I went over there was like to go to smoke. You know,
Okay.
or pick
Yeah,
up shit from Revival. It's like that was literally the only time I ever made my way over there because I never wanted to park. But you live in Lawrenceville. We were talking about like the dynamic of trick or treating because today's Halloween, obviously, and I was talking about like I started to like see all the different shit over there. That's like, you know, that's there that I never really like noticed, and it's interesting. How long have you been over there?
Actually, my wife and I moved there on Halloween 5 years ago. So this is our 5th year anniversary. And,
Wow.
living in Lawrenceville.
And you enjoy it, I assume.
Yeah.
Now,
We,
how far are you away from the shop?
8 blocks.
Yeah, like that's awesome. That's really awesome.
I still drive every day.
Yeah, I mean that's all right. Though. But if you need to, you can get there. If you,
I can absolutely walk it when it's nice out. It's a nice walk.
yeah. So, I mean, I feel like me and you have a long history. We've been working together for like I don't know, probably like I was trying to think when the first order I put in with you was probably like 8 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, definitely somewhere around there.
Because you were still over in the other spot,
Yep,
and that was in where was that considered?
that was
Braddock?
Braddock. Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
guys, that was like that was a wild spot. That was like what a church.
Yeah, we were. Well, at that point, it was basically just myself and 1 or 2 helpers from time to time. But yeah, that was out of the basement of a church over there. Renting some space out of there.
Yeah, it was an interesting place. Like I remember walking around there; it was wild.
Yeah.
But so I was thinking about like how I found out about you, and you know, anytime I have someone in here, I kind of think about how I have came across them, and I think it boiled down to Buzzy Turek. He's the one who
All
told
right.
me about you, and I think it was back whenever I think he knew about you guys whenever you were Fallout.
Yeah. That was we met him and his brother there when we were running the the skateboarding and paintball shop. So yeah, I've known him for probably almost close to like 15 years at this point.
Yeah, that's a long time ago. So I mean, like you run Revival now. That's your spot now.
Yep.
But like, what was it? But like, what was Fallout? Like, where? Like, what was that?
Well, it started out a buddy of mine and myself. We opened up. It started out as a paintball shop, just selling paintball supplies, doing repairs and stuff like that on paintball guns and equipment. And then we added skateboarding stuff in and some skateboarding apparel and stuff like that. And then we started kind of printing our own stuff out of the back of there. We had been working with a screen printer, and they were kind of a little bit unreliable, and there wasn't anything like really great about them.
Yeah.
So then my buddy just kind of decided like, hey, let's buy a screen printing press and let's try this. So we actually started printing. I believe it was in the bathroom of the one shop, with just a tiny press and kind of rinsing stuff out in a utility tub and stuff. And then it kind of took off. We started printing our own stuff and a couple clothing lines for him, and then started printing for other people after that. Just kind of word of mouth, just random jobs and stuff.
Now, did you have experience in printing before this, or did this all come from like that time?
No, I think it probably would have helped having a little bit of experience working for somebody else, in retrospect. But no, it was all just trial and error and watching a lot of YouTube videos and just kind of learning
Along the way.
Yeah, learning as we were doing it, which I've always been pretty mechanical and like kind of can grasp stuff like that. So it's something I was able to pick up. And
now, were you like heavy into paintball?
I played pretty consistently. I was definitely not one of the more heavier out of the group that we were hanging out with, but
it was a fun time. Yeah. It was very, very it was very cultish. It's like it had like a huge following.
Yeah.
But it was like if you were in it heavy. And it was like, you had the few that were like dabbling around, but the few that just dabbled had friends that were like obsessed with it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember like the first time I went was at Paintball Extreme.
Yes. Yeah.
And I had to be maybe like 5 or 6 or 7 maybe because
wow.
All my cousins are like 6 years older than me. So one of them was their birthdays, and it was like all them, my dad, and like all the uncles, and like me, who was just like it was like I was like an Ewok running around. I was real small, and I was just like the pack mule. I had my gun. I had a couple like tubes of paint, and I remember distinctly like everyone like was like blowing through all their paint, and I remember my dad was like, "Let me get your gun" or something like that, and I was like, "No," and I just remember getting shot in the forehead with a paintball, but that was like my first experience, and like after that, I don't think I played it again until I was like a senior, maybe.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you know Bill's Deck Hockey in Rostraver?
I've heard of it. That wasn't anywhere I ever played at, but yeah.
So like Bill's had this like deck hockey rink, and they had like an idea that they wanted to start like a paintball course, like a speedball course, a bunch of inflatables, and before it really like took off, he like told everyone, he was like, "Oh, if you were into paintball, come here, give me $20 and you could play all night." And we would play from like probably 11 p.m. until like 2 a.m. just under the lights.
Oh, wow.
And it was just like the group that like, we were basically just testing it out and telling them if we like it or not.
Yeah.
And we played for probably like 2 weeks, like almost every night. And then a big snow came and crashed down the roof because he had like a roof over it. And it kind of I don't know what happened to it after that. It kind of just like dissolved. I guess he just like cut his losses and, you know, went away with it. But paintball.
Yeah.
So like was it like you guys had an idea to open this paintball spot and do all this, and then so all the printing comes from that. Now, how long did that happen?
The paintball shop was open, I want to say, from about 2005 until 2008. In 2008, you know, the economy kind of tanked, and the sports that cost you $75 to go out and play for a day, the business definitely died down a lot. And so at that point, we ended up closing the paintball and skate shop, and I just ended up doing the screen printing basically
Now
during the day, you know, as a job.
Now, was that like your full-time gig? It was screen printing?
My full-time gig was working at Walmart stocking shelves overnight.
Oh, really?
And then, yeah, I had been doing that overnight for, I think I did that for about 3 years while, you know, trying to kind of get enough clientele with the screen printing to, you know, until it kind of was able to take off and really become a full-time job that paid the bills. So yeah, that was definitely a hard time, a lot of work.
Yeah, grinding. Now, I mean, like, if you were just like kind of coming into screen printing from like Fallout, and like you kind of just like were you just real into it from the beginning, and you were like, you know, I'm gonna try to make this work?
You know, it's funny with screen printers. I think like 90% of screen printers never really planned on like starting a screen printing business.
Yeah.
You know, if you talk to them, and a lot of them, you know, they were in a band and started printing T-shirts for their own band, or you know, something like that, and then it just eventually kind of it ends up being a business. And so that's, I mean, I guess I could see the potential in it enough to, you know, just stick with it and you know, make it happen. But I guess I never had like a 5-year plan of like being a business owner and running a screen printing business. It just became worthwhile, and it was something that I enjoyed enough to, you know, stick with it. So
That's cool. That's cool because, like you said, you know, if like a majority of the screen printers, I'm sure they never thought that. Like, I'm sure you growing up, you never thought that, oh, I'm going to own a screen printing shop. Like, what did you think about when you were growing up? Like, did you have an idea of what you wanted to be?
I'm honestly not sure. My dad was a contractor, and so I did a lot of you know, painting and remodeling and stuff with him growing up. And then I actually ended up going to school for HVAC.
Oh yeah.
So I am certified heating and cooling technician. And so then I guess I assumed I was probably just going to do that.
Yeah.
And
were you like at Votech? Like one of them Votech, or did you go to that after high school?
I actually it was a few years after high school. I did the contracting thing until I was about 23.
Yeah.
And then I ended up it was an apprenticeship with a HVAC company, and got my certification and everything through working with them. And then yeah, I mean, I just got a job with it after that, and never would have dreamed of being where I am today, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like you have the shop from me seeing you 8 years ago in the basement of that church to where it is now is like crazy to see.
Yeah.
Like, you definitely came a long way. You guys are, I mean, always pumping out really, really great stuff. Now, I'm curious, like, what were, like, I know that you have a good taste in music. Like, what were you like growing up? Like, what did you do? What were you into? That's a loaded question.
I was homeschooled.
Were you?
Yeah.
Your whole schooling?
All through high school.
Wow.
Yeah, and I definitely probably fit the profile, a slightly backwards kid who, I definitely have always enjoyed music. That's always been a big part of my life. And then played a little bit of like recreational street hockey, and then, got into the paintball a little bit later on.
Yeah.
But definitely kind of the more backwards kid growing up for the most part.
like introverted.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even today, that's still basically who I am. I just kind of get forced into situations like
I would
talking
say
on a podcast for an hour.
Yeah. Like I would say you're a quiet guy.
Yeah.
Like I think over the years, we obviously have known each other long enough where it's like we talk like easier than probably the first time I met you. Now, but like it's so crazy to like think about how like like everyone when they're younger, they have no idea what they're going to be, and like. I always listen to like what people tell me on here, and like how they kind of like got to the point, because that's the point of the podcast is like, how did you get to where you are today?
Yeah.
And, back then I never thought that like, I'd be doing podcast stuff. I never knew what I wanted to do. And it's interesting to hear how everyone like kind of like goes through, that Kama Worthy guy that I interviewed, he's a UFC fighter from Pittsburgh. But he was homeschooled too, and he talked to me about it. It's like, it's interesting because it's like high school for me was like such a, like I loved it. Like I loved going to school and dealing with that. Like what's homeschooling even like?
Well, I mean, it's, I think there's a million ways it can be done. For us, it was something where it was basically really like, you have to kind of learn on your own. We're given our curriculum and stuff, but you don't have like a teacher there like teaching you all the time. It was a lot of just like working through textbooks and lesson plans and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Then usually on like a weekly basis, there would be some sort of group with, a group of homeschoolers, whether...
oh, really? Like other homeschoolers?
Yeah.
Ah.
Whether it was, kind of a PE type group or like a science class or something like that, where you're, getting taught by somebody who has, skills in that area. And,
that's interesting.
Gives you your kind of social time, if you will.
Yeah. Because he's talking to him about it. He was like, yeah, like I was, He said the same thing. He was like, I was a very big introvert whenever I was, younger growing up. But now you would never be able to tell, that he is that he was at one point that way. But I don't know. It's just an interesting dynamic, like the whole idea of homeschooling. Like I know a lot of people are and the reason I like bring it up now is because like with the pandemic and everything, I think a lot of people are gonna like go towards that route. Not necessarily a lot, but more than normally.
And I mean, right, anymore with the amount of like online support that there is, I'm sure it's a night and day difference from what it was like when I was there.
Yeah, you probably had a bunch of books probably.
Yeah.
Now people could do video chats online.
Exactly, yeah. And I know there's definitely a lot of like, cyber classes and stuff like that people are doing now.
I talk to the adults that I know that have kids that like have their kids that are learning from online. They're doing online school, and it's just like it's such like a terrestrial idea to me, because it's like, we go to school, you learn in school, but everyone's just learning online now, which is understandable. All you see now is all these schools closing again because of all the numbers are rising, and it's like, the whole world is just like shifting. It's such a strange, bizarre place now.
Yeah.
Now, so you are screen printing in the back of a room and washing shit out in a tub. How does that manifest from going to that place to wanting to, get your own spot, like needing your own spot, and wanting to make that jump? Because I'm sure it had to be like nerve wracking. Like when do I quit working my job at Walmart?
Yeah. I mean, that literally came down to I had to start picking between like, which way I wanted to go, and I didn't want to become a manager at Walmart. So it just came down to like, there's only so many hours in the day, and the demands here, and I don't even feel like it was a few months. I kind of took a bit of a pay cut and didn't maybe make ends meet as well.
Yeah.
But then, the minute I really started focusing entirely on that and making it my main income, it just started growing from there.
What did you start out with? Like, did you just have like a one color press at first?
Yep. Yeah. So it was a 4-color, 1 station, but it was something where it was the entry level of entry level presses, and it was incredibly hard to get all the screens to line up properly, and it would take you 5-10 minutes to print 1 t-shirt, and so that press, I think about 2 years in, I ended up upgrading to something better than that. But yeah, that was a struggle for sure with that press and trying to take on more work.
What is like in the beginning when you're starting, like, is you're someone that's just like starting out, like who were like the type of clientele that you would get? Like how like who were the people that were like giving you the jobs that were able to that made you able to focus?
Well, I'd like to apologize to all of them because they were definitely I did a lot of learning on their projects. There were a couple bands, like local kids that we knew through the skate shop and stuff. Some churches, some small businesses, just through most of the people at that point were just people that I knew.
Yeah.
But it was, enough to get a decent client base, and then word of mouth from there, really.
Yeah, because I remember like even like in the other place before you were in Lawrenceville, you always had like just like piles of like of work, like everyone's jobs. Like you always seemed to be pretty busy. And I remember who did I remember specifically? Like I remember seeing these one shirts there, and I was like, damn, like these are crazy looking. I think there was zombies on there.
Oh yeah, we do. We've done a lot of work for Kevin, who runs the Living Dead Museum. Yeah,
and you've been working with him for a while.
10 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that those had to be the shirts that I remember seeing in the old spot.
It's kind of a funny story about how we started working for him. I don't know if you ever saw the movie Zach and Miri Make a Porno.
Yeah, the Monroeville Zombies.
Yeah. So my buddy and I, we had started doing like knockoff like Monroeville Zombie T-shirts.
Yeah.
And had actually put a lookbook together with those and like some other like designs we had come up with. And then went to his shop and tried to, see if he wanted to like buy them and sell them through his shop.
Yeah.
And he told us that he owned the copyright to the Monroeville Zombies.
Oh, really?
Logo. He had bought it off of, whatever the movie production company was that made it or what have you. And then he was totally cool about it. He was like, I'll just, can I just order these and, I'll pay you and, I'll sell them through my shop and just don't make them and sell them, online and stuff like that. So yeah, since then we've been working with him, and he's been a great customer, from pretty much the beginning almost.
Yeah, because like people that don't know what we're talking about, like if you ever been to Monroeville Mall, they had that like, was it called the Living Dead? I don't think it was called the Living Dead
Museum. It started out, it was called Time and Space Toys.
Yeah,
it was
that's
like a collectible toy deal.
But in the back, they had that like kind of like a walk through.
Yep.
Dawn of the Dead, like memoriam, like where it had like a bunch of the props and everything, and then that then he moved out of there and up to Evans City, right? And now he's moving back to Monroeville.
Yep. Yeah.
I just seen that. And,
Yeah. He's, I think in January he's planning on opening up like a much nicer, bigger museum there and toy store and everything. So
yeah, that's awesome. I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to get him on here. I could tell that like it looks like, you know, he's like ramping up to do some crazy stuff.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
back then, like, you're doing all these like jobs and you're kind of like building, you know, it's always interesting to hear like, you know, how how do you know that you're like to the point where you can, you know, make that jump? And I guess you never know really. It's always like the risk.
Yeah.
You're just like, is this going to work? So, you know, like when you're doing this and like you find this spot and you're starting to like, you know, kind of, you know, you're doing this full time, were you like super nervous at first?
I almost feel like I didn't have time to be super nervous.
Yeah.
Like, and you know, with my dad, who's always, well, for the majority of his life was self-employed and stuff, like it really wasn't something that scared me.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I mean, the business was there, and honestly, up until this last year, we've continued to like grow.
Yeah.
So it's never been anything that I've kind of like really had to address that maybe.
That's good though.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like I've also always taken probably an over-calculated risks. Like I've never actually pulled the trigger when I probably should have.
Yeah.
On buying equipment and stuff like that. So I've always kind of like waited until like it's
Played it safe a little bit.
Yeah, it's like a blaring problem almost, and then I'm like, well, I think we need to buy another press or hire another person. You know, I kind of wish that I would have just taken some more just like risks, because you know, anything that we have done, it's always ended up being worthwhile and you know, paid off and whatnot. But
That's good though, to be
Yeah.
calculated and, you know, kind of
yeah,
be safe with it a little bit. You know, a lot of people probably do the opposite and, you know, kind of screws them, you know, getting a bunch of debt and, you know, can't really get out of it and can't get the money for, you can't get the clients to be able to like, you know, pay that shit off. And it's probably
Yeah.
like overwhelming. So I guess you did it the right way. Now how long were you at the other spot before you came to Lawrenceville?
I've been in Lawrenceville for 5 years now, I think.
Okay.
So I was probably there for about 4 or so.
Yeah.
And we've had 2 spots in Lawrenceville. I'm not sure if you had ever been to the first one.
I don't think I have.
It was in a basement of an artist studio there.
No, I don't think I was ever
Yeah.
there.
So we were there for about a year and a half, and then moved to the spot we are now.
And where is you guys are right next to like Anthony's Locker,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
And now, how does someone decide to move from Braddock to Lawrenceville? Because 5 years ago, when you moved to Lawrenceville, like it was kind of picked up already, right?
Yeah. Once again, I think I probably waited too long to take that risk. Because it definitely, I mean, it's absolutely paid off for us. I think that was something where we wanted to be more in the city because of the business, the availability of business there.
Yeah.
You know, when you're in the suburbs, I feel like there's just a lot less going on. You know, but where we are now, like there's probably 60 restaurants within half a mile of where we are. You know, and so you just kind of have clientele all around you there.
Now, do people like? Does that obviously that has to benefit? I never understood like, does screen printing? Do you guys get a lot of clients just from like, you know, foot traffic?
Not from foot traffic, but I think just from
Like word of mouth?
from being in that zip code. You know, if you're you know, Googled screen printers in Pittsburgh, you know,
That's a good point,
We're
I
going to
guess.
come up better there than we would if we were, you know, still out in Braddock. And then, Yeah, I mean, it's primarily word of mouth is really where we get most of our clients from. So, just a lot of local people who, have done work with us and tell people. So,
yeah, because you guys are not active on social media. Like you have to.
That's something I need to change, but yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily something you need to change. I think that it is like, I don't know. If I didn't have the podcast, I wouldn't have social media like I do. Like I would, my Facebook would have been deleted. It's just a pit of despair on there. Twitter it doesn't help. The only I enjoy Instagram, but it's like, it's overwhelming anymore. Like social media for me is overwhelming.
Yeah.
I feel like that I just like waste my time. I'll just look through these videos of people like, just doing dumb shit. And I'm just like, why am I watching all this? And it's like, it's kind of like, it's so counterproductive. It's like, this is like research for me. This is like research and development, like going through and seeing all this. And then I'm like watching an hour of skate videos and I'm just like, God, like I got to get out of here. And it's like, I hear from my wife, like she's like, get off your phone. And I'm like, I know, I'm terrible with it. So it's like, I understand why you're not like super, super like heavy on social media, but it's also probably like a natural funnel for you. It's like if you guys were promoting so much more, you probably would be overwhelmed to the point that you would have to turn a bunch of people away, I would assume, right?
Yeah. And that's honestly with COVID and everything happening, it's really given me the opportunity to kind of like stop and almost like rethink like what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I do feel like kind of the spot where we're at right now is a sweet spot, and it's kind of the vibe that I like.
Yeah.
I'm horrible at managing people and running a business. So I think just having like a smaller group of people and keeping like that kind of like small shop vibe is really, that's kind of our sweet spot, and where we can, interact with customers and know them by name.
Still be personable.
Yeah, exactly. And so I really feel like just maintaining kind of the spot where we are and, constantly improving processes and, whatnot. But I like the size that we're at now. I feel like it really, it's our sweet spot.
I love a small vibe. Like even whenever I got out of like college, I interned at a big company like FedEx. I interned at FedEx at like their corporate office. So that's like, there's 1,000 people in that building, and you're just like a piece in a big machine. And there's not like any sort of like intimacy there where you could like, really, get a good relationship with like your boss or like other people. It's just like, you're just another person in this machine. And the place I'm at now, I love because it's like, I'm like one of 9 people in the office. So it's just like, it's so much better because it's like, I talk to these guys on a different level. Like, we're friends, and it's like, it makes it, for me, it's way more of an environment that I want to be in more. You know what I mean? Like once it becomes something so big, it adds so many other factors that like is overwhelming. But I can get what you're saying with that though. Like now, why do you say you're bad at managing people? Like in what way?
I mean, I don't know. And maybe they would say differently. I feel like I'm bad. With, probably more creating like a good like HR type system and like, interacting with them. I feel like I could probably do better at that.
I'm sure everyone could. Everyone could do better at it.
And it's I think that comes with kind of like how I started, like not ever planning on being where I am right now. I never have I ever wanted to manage a company, really. It's just kind of like become what I'm doing day to day now. And so, it's something that I'm constantly trying to like learn more about and get better at. But
well, I feel like that you, I feel like that just by the way you talk about it, like you have a good, understanding of it. You're not like, you don't seem like, an asshole on a power trip like some big people are. And it's like, no one, I mean, I feel like that, like, it's hard for me to understand people like that. Like, why do they think that it's going to be better for them? You know what I mean? Like being a lunatic and like being someone that your employees, like, that you're being like a boss and like, I don't know how I want to explain it. It's like, I would rather treat people better and like have like a better relationship with them rather than just being like delegating everything, like doing this, like I'll only be in the office like once a week, doing all that. It's like, it doesn't work well. Like, I think logically it doesn't work well in anything, but that's kind of that's why I like the place I'm at now. It's because like, it's such a more relaxed vibe. And, you get to, like, I work with the owner of the company, and it's just like, it's cool to like have that connection with them.
And I guess that's probably like where maybe my strength, like I can say like, hey guys, I screwed up this week. Like,
I think
or,
that's a benefit.
I know I can do better here. Like I'm trying to figure that out.
That's a benefit,
and just kind of be real and just like, honest. And
now, did you have an idea of like what you wanted the business to be? Like, did you have like whenever I say that is like, you do like screen printing, you do other stuff now, but it's like, is that what you wanted it to be in the beginning? Or is that just something that naturally progressed into that? Like, did you have different goals in the beginning of what you were doing?
No, I mean, like I had said, I didn't really have goals as far as like knowing, like, it just kind of like happened almost. As I worked more and more, it just kind of continued to grow. I think at this point, I've definitely kind of defined where I want the business to be and how I want it to look. And, so now I feel like I can, get clients based off of that. And, we kind of have our standards and whatnot that define who we are. But that's just been more of almost a seeing what doesn't work and then kind of like figuring out what we have to do in order to make it work rather than like a really like define like this is our goal.
Yeah, that makes sense then. Well, now, where does the name Revival come from?
That was something that my wife and I had really taken some time to try and figure out. And it was actually something that she came up with. We had been Fallout for probably almost 5 years after the skate shop and everything had closed. And we just felt like we kind of needed something new and fresh, to kind of redefine us and redefine who we are and where we are.
Because it's very different names. Like Fallout is like, it's almost like a bleak type name.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
What I mean? Like, it's like Fallout. It's like you're going to have a fallout. It almost has like a negative connotation.
Absolutely.
And Revival feels like, you're reviving something. Like it feels like you said, it feels new. It feels like, brighter almost. And it's interesting to hear people's names. Like I usually ask people like if they have like a brand or anything, like how they come up with their names, because I know that, doing my work in the past, like, like the Lost Boys name, it just like came to me, and I knew at that point in that point in my life, like I knew that was it at that time. Yeah. Even though now I look at it and I'm just like, why did I do all that?
Right.
And, But I'm happy I did. But like I'll call you right back. It just like came to me, and it was like after like 4 years of like thinking of it. Mm-hmm. And it's always interesting to hear how people come up with their names, because their names, I mean, your name of your brand is everything. It's like you build everything from it. So I was always just curious about it.
Yeah, and I really do think it kind of defined like that, coming out of what was and just, reviving and making something new and fresh and, trying to be that in the community of screen printers too, something that's new, fresh, doing things maybe a little bit differently than a lot of the bigger screen printers do.
Yeah.
And then also just being part of the community that we're in, and even Pittsburgh in general, there's a reviving of small business and just business in general. Like I feel like the culture has really kind of turned up again in like the last few years at least.
Yeah, it's interesting to see because like you see a lot more small businesses opening up. You see a lot more people like taking initiative to be more of a community, work together. Even people like Cody Baker, doing things like that with Creatives Drink and like what he does, and all the other people that are doing things that that are really adamant about working with local shops. And I've always been like super adamant about like trying to keep the money in the city that I go to. It's like I could go and find a print shop and get shit printed overseas and have it shipped over, but it's like I always felt like that we would never do like me doing that would never do like the city in a whole any justice, because it's like I want I live here, like I want things to thrive, like I want things to get better and to progress and everything, and I always felt that it was so important to like try to do everything you can in the city, and like that's why I get my stickers printed locally and everything like that. It's just like I feel like it's such an important thing to do.
Yeah.
What was I just gonna say? How do you go about like just like a clothing brand, just like a podcast? A screen printing is a saturated business. Mm-hmm. It's there's a dime a dozen all around. It's like how do you go about like setting yourself aside and like making people want to choose you over other places?
Well, I think it's I think that's kind of just finding your niche and finding what you do well.
Yeah.
There's definitely better screen printers in Pittsburgh than us. There are faster screen printers in Pittsburgh than us, probably. There's obviously bigger screen printers. For us, our kind of what we do well, which I feel like a lot of other screen printers don't, is having customers who can walk in and interact with us and see the garments, feel them. We can have that customer experience that a lot of other screen printers in Pittsburgh don't have. And unfortunately with COVID, that's been paused a little bit. For a while we weren't doing any walk-ins at all, and now it's kind of like schedule your appointment and we'd be happy to work with you. But that's really a niche that I feel like was lacking with the other screen printers in Pittsburgh, and so it's something that we've been able to really excel at, and that's kind of how we stand out amongst other screen printers locally.
Yeah.
Because there's definitely, there's a million screen printers in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and just like there's a million podcasts, and it's like, the thing that sets you aside from other people is like, the creativity that you try to put into it, the ingenuity and like kind of like what you could do that's going to be different than like the rest. It's like, a million people have a podcast. It's like, what could I do that's going to be different, that's going to make people want to listen to this? And like that was like my biggest thing whenever I started this, is like I'm about to be on 3 years of doing this, and before that, they're like podcasts were picking up, like people started listening to podcasts, and I did 1 year, like 6 years ago, and no one in Pittsburgh listened to podcasts. It's like it just fell on deaf ears, and I've been listening to it for so long. I've been listening to like, Rogan and everything for like almost a decade now. And it's like, how am I going to make something that's not going to just be washed away with, the rest of all the regular podcasts? It's like, what could I do that's different? And, that's how I kind of came up with like, just a very transparent approach to it. Long form, transparent, like conversations, like whoever wants this type of content will come to it. Whoever doesn't want it, go ahead. There's other places that you could go and listen to people just bullshit. But, it's all about finding like what you do. And I think you guys do well, because like ever since I started working with you back then, I never printed shirts before. I never knew what I needed to do, but like you were always such like an easy person to work with, very helpful, and like, you know, you offered like good opinions. You know, I remember like trying to figure out like what blank I wanted to use in the beginning, and like coming up to you, and like I remember you telling me I remember I was like, oh, I'm thinking about using like a Gildan shirt, and you were like, yeah, you could use this Gildan shirt, but like there's this brand that you could use that's like a little bit more, but like it's going to be way better quality. And I remember thinking like, you know, like it'll be worth it to do something like that, because like I don't want it to just be, you know, another band t-shirt you buy and you wash once and it's like all deformed and like, you know, it's not the same. And I think that your approach of being like personal with the customers is like a good strong point for you guys for sure.
Yeah.
That was long-winded what I was saying there, but it works. Now, like this whole dynamic of COVID, obviously people have not, you know, no one ever experienced nothing like this. No one was ever ready for anything like that. As a print shop, I feel like that you guys didn't have as bad of a, you know, like I could be completely wrong, but I feel like it wasn't as bad of a, you know, effect, because people sell clothes. You could sell stuff online, you know. Yeah, people were kind of in like, you know, a hard place with not getting paid and not getting money, and like not wanting to like probably put out a bunch of clothes because people didn't have money to buy them. But, you know, you weren't like a restaurant where it's like things are, you know, shutting down.
Yeah.
Like, how did that affect you guys, like from the beginning? Like, what was like your thought once it started to happen, and like how you kind of like curbed that like negative thing?
Well, I mean, I think we definitely got lucky. There's some screening printing shops that primarily do sports gear or school stuff. And they got hit hard. For us, with definitely having a clientele, a lot of clothing lines and stuff like that, we did get lucky to where we didn't get hit nearly as hard as some other spots. And I think also just our size has really played into that. Like with having a small shop, we were able to kind of navigate it a bit easier and just change a little bit quicker. You know, right off the bat, we started doing some kind of fundraising T-shirts for local businesses. And then
You had a good response to that?
Yeah. I mean, it was.
I thought that was a super cool idea. Yeah. Like I saw Buzzy post, like he did the one for the Epicast.
Yeah, for the Epicast. Yep.
And I thought that was such a cool idea, because like that was such an interesting way that companies were implementing like a way for people to like donate to an extent, but also like get something in return. Like people that have a good company that they want to support through this, and they want to be able to open up in the end. Like I thought like a piece of merch like that was a cool idea to do.
Yeah. So that I mean that, you know, kept me busy. It was just myself there for about a month and a half. And so that kind of helped get through that time. But then I think after the original like time where everybody just stopped doing anything, it started to pick up again pretty quickly. And yeah, the online stores and stuff that the clothing brands have started to pick up again. And even through it all, I feel like the support for small business was a focal point for kind of the nation.
Yeah.
And so people were looking to support the small clothing brands or local businesses. And so that really helped a lot.
It was almost like a concentrated dose of like, you know, the feeling of community. It's like,
yeah.
It's like people, like I noticed like people like doing things to, cause it's weird. It's like, I've always kind of had a mindset of like wanting to like do the local, like be local, shop local and things like that. And it's like, I noticed like during the pandemic, like that started to be more apparent for people. It's more local businesses, like, and like you were saying, it's like you saw more of like a, you know, a community like vibe develop throughout like everything.
Yeah. And with me being the introvert that I am, like I honestly, like, there's so many local businesses that I had never met the owners of or had interactions with and stuff. And so with COVID happening, like, I feel like I got to meet, like, even in our social distancing, I got to meet and interact with a lot more companies and businesses that, you know, I just never reached out to before or really interacted with.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, the feeling of community and support for small business has really, it's been a great feeling and a great thing to be part of through all this, I think. And I would imagine that hopefully it sticks around and it's something that's a long-term positive effect from COVID.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully. I mean, we'll see what happens. Who knows when it's even going to be, you know, the course is going to be ran. It'll be interesting.
I laugh when people kind of act like I made it through COVID. You know, there's people that are starting to come into the shop and stuff, you know, and like, hey, glad you made it through and everything. And I'm like, you know, this is far from over. You know, still every week I feel like there's small businesses that are ending up closing up, and you know, if we go through another round of shutdowns, like, who knows what this all looks like. So it's, you know, just as important now as it was in March and April to, you know, support small business. And
yeah, I agree for sure. It's it'll be interesting what's happening in the next month. You know, the next month, 2 months, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how things, you know, how things develop, how things like kind of pan out, like what's going on. Because now, I mean, I just looked at a video yesterday and it was like insane, like hour long waits of traffic, people trying to get out of Paris to avoid another lockdown. And it's just like wild to see how everything's like responding. Like schools are being shut down again, and like someplace in the South, they like implemented a lockdown, I think, and and it's just like, it's weird because, you know, like that was a weird time in life. It's like that them few months where like no one could leave, you know, it really made things like interesting because no one's ever done that. It was like all the adults had like a summer vacation to some extent.
Yep.
Because you know, I never thought that while I was 30, I would just be like sitting home for 3 months. I got laid off at
Watching
one point.
Netflix and
yeah,
stuff.
dude. Like it was weird. It was such like a weird thing because it's like, yeah, you're off, but you can't do nothing. So it's like you're just locked in your house. I was just building puzzles, you know, doing dumb stuff, like doing these like, and the podcast for me, you know, stopped completely because, you know, I couldn't just have random people coming over because again, like I didn't know how crazy this was going to be, you know, so I didn't want it to like just halt completely. So that's whenever I started doing like the weird like pyramid schemes and everything like that. And, you know, luckily that ended up going well. Like people liked that, but it was a weird dynamic. Now, the process of like, you know, your distributors and stuff like that, did that halt at all during COVID? Because that's like a bigger, like those are big companies. So did they have to like shut down?
Yeah, and that's kind of the effect that we're feeling right now. The main T-shirt suppliers, the Gildens, the Next Level, Bella Canvas, they all shut facilities down for, you know, whether it was a month or 2 months, and even now they're still running it like half staff or, you know, with all these precautions. So whereas when the actual lockdown was, we could still get T-shirts easily.
Yeah.
Now, like, there's stuff that's going to be out of stock until January, February. And so I feel like every day I'm having to spend like an hour trying to figure out where I can get like a black 2XL T-shirt from.
Amen.
You know, because there's a demand now, but they haven't caught up with supply. So it's just been like a real it's been a challenge.
Yeah, I bet.
And so, yeah, it seems like for the rest of the year, we're going to be feeling the effects of that. And then the companies, too, are making masks now. So they've switched over some of their production and staff to making masks instead of T-shirts. So
Are you printing a lot of masks?
we're doing a decent amount. Yeah.
A lot of companies doing them.
Yeah. And I know, like, Bella Canvas, they were making like something like 1 million masks a week or something like that for like a month straight.
That's insane.
So there's a huge demand for them, and it's unfortunately something that I think we're going to be wearing and printing for, who knows how long, but
Yeah, who knows how long? And if you don't, it's like you're the asshole if you're not wearing them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, which is understandable. Like, it's just like I was talking to my tattoo artist last night about this, and I was like, "What do you think about it?" And he was like, "I don't know, dude." He was like, "I don't know what to think about it." He was like, "You turn on one news channel and you hear something different than the other news channel," and he was like, "I just wear a mask and hope for the best." He was like, "I'm not necessarily worried about my health." He was like, I'm healthy, I'm fine." He was like, "But I obviously you care about the effect on other people."
Yeah.
But it's like, there's I saw some guy get yelled at while he was riding his bike, or he was walking and I was riding my bike, and I saw some guy yelling at him. He was like, "Put a mask on, you asshole." And then the guy was like, he was just running down the trail, and it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like that's the part that I'm like, kind of conflicted about. It's like, people yelling at people like riding a bike along, and it's like, am I supposed to wear a mask while I'm riding my bike? And I don't know, it's such like a weird time in life that like everyone's trying to like feel out and like see where it's gonna go.
Yeah.
It's definitely interesting.
And I posted an Instagram post a little bit ago, about how when we first got into the pandemic and started wearing masks, I was like, oh my goodness, I can't imagine if we're like wearing ththese in the middle of the summer at the shop, and it's going to be like 90 degrees and we're like trying to print and our glasses are fogging up. And sure enough, here we are, and it could easily be a year of wearing these things. And it's weird, the mindset that we went from like the 30 days or whatever that we were going to have to do this stuff to now it's like it's just life basically until we hear otherwise. Yeah,
like you used to see like over in like China and stuff before. It's like even before the pandemic happened, that was like a norm.
Yeah.
It's like that was like, it was almost like fashionable. People were wearing it as like a fashion item, but it's also like, I don't know if they were wearing it more for just fashion or for safety, but now it's like, it's what it is like here now. It's like, I feel like even once shit is, if shit kind of dies down, people are still going to be wearing them. It's interesting to think about it and to kind of, because you never guess where things are going to be. You never know what's going to happen, and who knows how long we're going to be wearing them. It's very interesting, and I think like the next couple months, obviously we have an election and stuff like that coming up. It's just going to be bizarre. It's going to be very bizarre. Now, what are your ideas, for the business? Obviously you say that you guys are in like a sweet spot right now. It's going well, fortunately. What are like the goals of what you want to do? How do I want to say, how can you stay in that sweet spot? How do I don't even know how to phrase it.
Right now and honestly pre-COVID too, I was looking at some new locations. That's still something I really want to do, find a better, nicer location. Once again, not so that we can necessarily do like 10,000 more shirts a week, but so that we can have a better customer experience, so that we can have a better work environment, more open spaces, more area to just kind of take a break from work from time to time. A nicer showroom where customers can walk in and just kind of get a really nice experience and vibe. And so that's still where I'd like to be. I pressed pause for a little bit, but it's something that I'm picking up the search for again.
Yeah.
So finding a space where we can have like a little bit of a retail type space, not necessarily selling retail, but just having like that type of vibe in the front, and then like a nice open work area in the back where we can have some space to kind of move around instead of tripping over boxes and stuff all the time.
You guys are packed up in there.
Yeah. So that's definitely still the goal. I think bringing on, pre-COVID, I had more employees. Bringing back a couple more employees.
How many employees did you have at the
I had
max?
4 employees prior to. Right now, I'm running with 2.
Yeah.
I'm starting to get to the point where I'm having to work nights and weekends again. So that's my cue for fixing that. But I think getting back to that and just like I said before, constantly improving processes and the experience, to hopefully someday it'll run like nice and smoothly. And
nice and smooth.
I can get to a point where I can go on vacation again for, a week or maybe 2 weeks.
How long has it been since you got to do that?
The last vacation I went on was the Christmas before last, I think.
That's the life of a self-employed person.
Yeah. So we'll see. I definitely I ran myself a bit ragged with COVID and everything, and I need a break for sure in the near future.
Yeah.
So I mean that's my goals for the shop, and I just turned 40 this summer, and so I'm kind of like...
You're 40 years old?
Yeah.
You really don't look 40 whatsoever.
I hope not, and I hope to kind of ride that out for a long time.
Yeah, that's good. Do you feel 40?
Yeah, I think so.
You feel it?
I guess I don't know what it feels like for other people, but yeah, I know there's, a lot of things that like... I know I could have done like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and now I'm like, man, like I can feel the noticeable effects of like of pulling an all-nighter or like a late night or something like that,
For sure.
Where, 10 years ago, 15 years ago was kind of like just my MO.
Yeah.
So yeah, like looking at it, like 10 years down the road, I'll be 50, and like what do I want it to look like then? Like I certainly don't want to be doing the same stuff I'm doing now.
Yeah, because eventually you're going to want to phase it out to the point where you could just have a self-sustaining business.
Exactly, yeah.
And you don't have to be in there busting your ass every single day, all day.
Yeah. I think with me, I think I will be in there all the time.
Are you a control freak? Not to the point. Yeah. Not to the point where it's like, you're like, a crazy overbearing boss, but like me, that's why I don't have anyone doing anything for the podcast. It's like I just don't trust anyone else to do it the way I'll do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I guess it's maybe not a trust thing, but I definitely I have to like stop myself from probably like micromanaging on a daily basis, and like just allow things to like to work how they should. And so that's something with like the processes and stuff that we're working on. I'm really hoping to get to a place where I do feel like I can just like step back and just know that stuff's gonna go out and be right and look great, and but a lot of that is just me kind of having to stop myself from stepping into situations.
It's understandable though. Like, it's like if you think about it, like from the beginning, you're involved in this in the beginning, and like you're growing something. You're grooming it. You're like, you're building something, and like you're so used to, building these things and, incubating these things. And it's almost like, it's hard to turn off. You know what I mean? And I couldn't imagine trying to, I don't know. I'm just too much of a control freak. I'm too stubborn to ever just, have someone else do this podcast. Yeah. That's why I do all this, but it is overwhelming sometimes. Meeting with people, talking with people for 2 hours, having to edit the shit and having to put all this stuff out on your own. And I'm going to move and I'm going to build a studio and kind of make it a little bit, ramp up the production a little bit. I'd like to implement video in it and just do a video podcast, but it's God, it's overwhelming for me to even think about. I get anxiety to think about it all. And, do you get any sort of anxiety, having your own business? Is that something that you ever struggle with?
I mean, I think I'm stressed out every day.
Yeah,
I know I am.
I know I am.
And that's one of those things where I have to kind of stop and compartmentalize and say okay, why am I stressed out right now? Stuff is gonna run smoothly whether you input your opinion into it or not. So yeah, I definitely that's something I struggle with every day almost. And like you said, it's kind of your baby. You've raised it. You've got it to where it is. And although I don't think anybody is ever going to care about your business as much as you do and put
Absolutely
the effort
not.
in as much as you do.
No one will work harder than you.
There's always there's going to be people who are going to do their job and do it really well, and that you can rely on.
Yeah.
And you just have to be willing to kind of step back and let them do that.
It's hard to do that. It's like letting a kid go on a bike.
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? It's just gotta have faith in shit, I guess.
Yeah.
What do you do for fun? Whenever you're not, I'm sure, I know you work around the clock a lot, and it's what do you do to blow off steam and have a good time whenever you're not in the shop?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, music, concerts, shows,
It's heartbreaking.
and then travel.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
So the last show I think I went to was in probably November or something like that last year, and I'm just I'm going crazy, wanting to see some live music again.
Who was it?
It was Norma Jean and
wow.
The Devil Wears Prada.
Wow.
At Mr. Smalls.
Jeez.
And so I could stand to go to a show.
Yeah, right. I was talking to my buddy Zach. He is in Like Moss to Flames.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And they just put out a new record, and he after we were done recording, we were just talking about the upcoming tour that they're trying to put together, and how he's they're all just chomping at the bit, because it's they're always on the road doing these tours and playing these shows, and it's that's such a part of their life normally, and it's no one's got to do anything like that, and it's from us as being a customer point of view, and someone who wants to go and watch shows.
Yeah.
It's it's wild to think about the people that have been doing shows their entire life, basically. Chris in that band has been in a high a big band since he was 16. Mm-hmm. It's just such a weird dynamic to think about. It just hasn't been happening for 7 months, 8 months. It's weird to think about. I was watching I listen to a lot of podcasts with comedians, and there's comedians that have just been road dogs, that they're just always touring, and they're I haven't done comedy for 7 months, and it's just fucking weird.
Yeah.
And you're just what's gonna I don't know. No one could tell because now everyone's oh yeah, we're just gonna get out of this fine. Everything's gonna be fine. We're almost out of this, and now the numbers are starting to rise again, and things are starting to lock down again, and it's just weird.
Yeah.
Very bizarre.
And obviously, the live stream just doesn't
even, do it.
It doesn't fill the void for concerts and
for
stuff,
anything
so.
really. I can't listen to a podcast if it's a Zoom podcast. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just feels it doesn't the first one I listened to from beginning to end was Matthew McConaughey was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and I really like Matthew McConaughey, and I was I'm going to listen to this, and it's just there's just something different about like being in the presence of someone and being able to like, you know, feel their energy, because like once you're through that filter of a computer screen, it's like it loses its like soul. You know, I don't know how to describe it. I was trying to, because Antoinette, like my wife, will be like, you know, why don't you try to like get someone and you could like do a Zoom meeting with them or whatever. And I'm just like, I had no desire to do that. And that was like what I was thinking about, like, while the pandemic like started. I was like, how am I going to have people on the podcast? It's like, how am I going to do this? And that was before I decided to do like the research based ones. But it's like, I don't know, I just don't like it. It's weird. And I'm too stubborn to want to try to stray away from what I'm doing. You know, it's interesting. Yeah. But the shop is going well though. You know, fortunately for you, everything's going well. You seem to be busy.
Yeah. We're super busy right now. Like I said, I'm kind of at the point where I'm having to like consider getting some more people back on. But yeah, I mean, it's you know, it's doing well, and we're just taking 1 week at a time here, and you know, seeing what that holds, and then we'll see what the rest of the year holds as it comes. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, do you think there's anything I missed talking about with you? I was trying to think. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, business is basically
business.
As you said, that's my life.
I know. Business is your life, and I mean, you know, I kind of like keep in touch with what like you guys do, obviously, because like every once in a while I'll put it in order, and like whenever I do put it in order, we talk about things a little bit. I come in and like see it, and I was happy that you guys like were able to, you know, still, you know, like how people tell you, like, I'm glad you made it through, and like, you know, like I'm glad that, you know, because there was a lot of places that are shutting down, and they kind of just like, you know, cutting out all the risk and like thinking of other things to do. Like, did you ever have that thought while this pandemic was happening? Like, you know, like, what am I gonna like? At any point, did you think that like it was never going to be able to like be what it was? Like, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, it was like the worst case scenario is I'm just printing on my own again.
Yeah,
like
I guess that's a good
and that's
point.
not like to me that's not something that would bother me at all. I guess.
Yeah, whenever I picked up shirts the other day, you were just like bumping music, and it's like I'm sure you just get into like a zone.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And like, what's up with like, you know, did you guys get I saw that you had like the automatic machine and stuff like that now. Like how awesome is that compared to like, you know, the manual presses?
Yeah, I mean, that thing is obviously able to put out a lot more.
Yeah.
You know, whereas a manual press, like 60 shirts an hour is probably your max for like a you know, for a pretty quick screen printer. That thing can put out almost 600 shirts an hour when it's running on full tilt.
600. Jeez.
Yeah. So you know, it's capable of doing a lot more, and has really taken a lot of the actual hard work out of screen printing. It's more the kind of the technical work that we're doing right now. You know, with that, you know, there's a million adjustments on it that you can make to
I bet,
to get the perfect print. So yeah, that's been a real huge change, and we're still working on.
How new is that machine?
It's about 1.5 years old.
Yeah.
So we're still working on our processes to make it as efficient as it can be.
Yeah.
But it definitely made a huge difference.
I bet. Couldn't even imagine that.
That's one of those things. It's scary to invest in that. But it's paid for itself, like, you know, 10 times over, you know.
For sure. I was sitting on the porch the other day, and like a couple houses over, they were redoing a roof, and it's like a super steep. It has a lot of like steep parts of the roof. It's almost like a barn style, but I saw this long ladder all the way up to the top, and I was like, what is this thing on there? And it was a motorized lift. people were just tossing shingles instead of like, whenever I did
Carrying
roofing,
them up on your shoulders.
whenever I was doing roofing with my dad, like you would have to carry a bundle up on your shoulder, and you're like, oh, I'm 30 foot up. It's very sketchy on this ladder. I got to like try to be at the top of the ladder and shrug this off and without falling off and dying. But it's like, them little like conveniences of like technology, these guys were putting 2 bundles of shingles on, hitting a button, and it would literally fly up so quick that they would freely just hop off and land in a little pile up there.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, it got to be crazy. And it does got to be, scary to invest in things like that. But like, I'm happy that you guys are doing well. Yeah. You did the Turner shirts that we just did.
Yeah.
And they were a huge success. They were great. Everything went well with them.
That's always exciting, getting to like print for like kind of iconic groups or people like that. And we've had a few of those where I'm like, wow, I get to like print like this logo or for this company or business that I've always kind of like appreciated. And so it's just cool to actually get to like to work with stuff like that and
for sure
print stuff. So
it's cool for me to work with them. It's like I grew up on the shit. It's like and to like see my stuff along with them is it means a lot. It like keeps me like going with all this stuff. What are some other brands that you were like pumped that you like got to work with?
Daily Bread was definitely a brand that like I had been paying attention to for a while.
Yeah, I saw that you were doing a lot of their stuff.
Yeah, and now it's been almost 5 years now that we've been working for them. We got to print some stuff for Bear and Batch a little bit back there. There's just some cool groups, like we've been working with 412 Food Rescue.
Got to be fun to like whenever you get them types of people that like hit you up and you're just like hell yeah, like let's do it. I was pumped that the shirts came out like and they sold like they did. Like people liked it. I was happy with it. I got some good ideas. I'm going to be hitting you up for Christmas too. We got some good stuff coming.
Right on, yeah.
But all right, so let's get to the ending segment of the podcast. This is what I'm most excited about always, but I do an ending segment of the podcast called Desert Island Questions.
Everybody gather up, please. I think this is a perfect opportunity for all of us to participate in some really intense, psychologically revealing conversations. So we're going to be playing Desert Island. Desert Island. Desert Island.
Desert Island Questions is where I give each of my guests 3 categories to take with them and exhaust until they die on a desert island. So you get to pick 3 movies to take with you on a desert island to watch over and over and over again.
3 movies, man. If I had to pick 3 movies, which I very rarely watch movies more than once.
Really?
Yeah. But I would say, and this is going to be horrible. It's going to make me sound like...
no, there's no bad answers.
But Fast and Furious 1. Oh, like the original. I could probably... That's one that I've probably watched almost 20 times.
I saw that movie midnight premiere at Distinta. And whenever I came out of the movie theater with my brother and my father... People had their their Civics and everything, and you just see everyone like trying to peel out.
Everybody's all pumped up.
Everyone's all pumped up. They probably were trying to race along the way, but Fast and the Furious, unreal. What do you think about them going into space in the next one? Did you see that?
No.
Yeah, they said that they're going to
be horrible.
It's going to be bad. I haven't watched them. I haven't watched the last 3 of them.
Yeah, I think I watched the second, and then I think Tokyo Drift maybe came. It was like the 3rd one in the series.
Yeah,
and that's really where I just kind of quit watching them.
Fast and the Furious is a classic, though. The first one,
yeah,
can't beat it. All right.
Another one I would say would be The Pursuit of Happiness.
That's a good one.
I have never gone through anything similar to what to that situation, but I feel like it's inspiring, and it kind of, I feel like to a certain extent I can relate to kind of the hustle and the struggle of just making it happen.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good movie.
And then a third movie, man. Kill Bill, the original Kill Bill. Incredible. Yeah.
It's a really, really good one. That's been on our list to watch. My wife has never seen that.
Oh, man.
She was different coming up with movies. Like, she wasn't as into movies as I was.
Yeah.
And, I've been slowly, like, checking off things to, like, that I want her to watch. And, we've been watching them together. And it's, like, it's so rewarding for me to, like, put a movie on and let her watch it. Like, she never seen E.T., and we watched that like a month ago, and she was like, "Geez, like I get why that this is like a great movie."
Yeah,
I was like, yeah. Think of this. Think of like when this came out, and like because we were watching The Haunting at Hill House on Netflix, and the dad in that show is Elliot from E.T.
Okay,
and I told her that, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I never seen E.T." And I was like, "What?" And so we watched it, and she was like, "Geez, that was a really good movie." But those are good choices that you have. Those were three good ones.
Those are probably maybe some of the few that I've actually watched more than once too.
Do you watch like TV shows or anything?
Yeah. TV for me is almost like one of those things that I have on more in the background almost.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's always like good Office on some channel.
Oh yeah, that's good stuff. That's like the. I mean, I don't know if there's a better show to put on the background.
Yeah. I mean, you can just be sitting there and
not
just
even
like
looking at the
chuckling to
TV
yourself.
Yeah, you don't even have to look at the TV. It's like I'll just be editing, and like whether I'm editing, I'll have it on just on mute with the subtitles.
Yeah,
and like I could look over, and I know it now off by heart, where I could just laugh because I know what they're saying.
Yeah, you know what's coming up.
Or like if I'm cleaning, I'll just turn it on, and I don't even have to look at it, and I can just hear the words, and it's like either way I'm consuming it. It's incredible.
Yeah,
it's good stuff. Do you read at all?
I don't read. I do the Audible thing.
Okay. Well, that's fine.
So I consume books that way.
Do you have 3 books that you enjoyed that you would take on the desert island?
I wouldn't say there's 3 specific ones. I definitely listen to a lot of like business related stuff. It's always interesting to me.
Yeah. What about if you could pick 3 podcasts to take on a desert island, where you could just have 3 podcasts that you'll just always be subscribed to that you can listen to?
3 podcasts. There's one called Shirt Show right now, and it's a screen printing one.
Really?
Yes.
Weird how many podcasts there are and what you could find on podcasts.
I think you can find a podcast on anything.
Like what do they even talk about? Like, yeah, this blank is like this and that.
Yeah. Does that make it too geeky?
No, but like it makes it interesting to know that there is something like that.
I mean, it's done by a couple guys who both run, pretty decent sized shops and everything, and it's just they're interviewing other screen printers and just struggles that you can relate to as a screen printer, talking about like tips and tricks and equipment and this, that, and the other thing. It's just kind of like geeking out on
that's cool
screen printing struggles and tech.
That's a good one.
So that's definitely one. And then I think the dollop is probably like as far as like more comedic. Just ones that I can put on and kind of chuckle to while I'm screen printing.
All right.
And then a third podcast, I would say. How I Built This with. It's on an NPR one that they just interview like business owners. And,
that's pretty good. I've listened to a couple on there. That's pretty interesting one. All right, those are good choices.
And I'll call you right back.
Oh, there you go. Thank you. The last category is 3 things to listen to. So you get to pick 3 CDs.
3 CDs. I did think about this one. And they're honestly the CDs that I just go like
The defaults.
if I'm at a loss for something, I just turn it on.
Yeah.
So the one is Camp by Childish Gambino.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Interesting guy. I would love to speak with him.
Yeah.
He would be a great interview.
He's he's brilliant. Like
Anything
the way
he does.
he writes songs and stuff. And
I mean, anything. TV shows, acting, like it's crazy to think that all of that comes out of one human. It's just it's overwhelming. It makes me feel like I'm not doing nothing with my life. Whatever I think, like he's making incredible music, he's making incredible TV, he's making incredible movies. Like what else could he do?
Yeah.
Did you ever watch Atlanta?
I haven't. I've looked for it, and I don't know if it's something I can stream on anything that I can get.
I don't know if I don't know where I have it downloaded. I think, but it's a really really incredible show.
Yeah,
and it's very very weird. You know, like it's very bizarre, but I don't know. He's a wild guy, but that's a good one, Camp.
Yeah. And then there's a band called Me Without You.
Yep.
And their first album, AB Life. I distinctly remember the first time I listened to that, and just like the intro of it just like blew my mind. Like it was like it. And it's just stuck with me ever since then. Like, and really, really good all the way through. And then the third, I would probably have to say would be "Oh God, the Aftermath" by Norma Jean.
Oh wow, Norma Jean was a band that I listened to whenever. What was like their real hit song that they had? I remember the album cover. I remember seeing them somewhere, but like, you know,
What was the album cover?
It was like white. I swear there was like blood on there almost.
I want to say that's "Oh God, the Aftermath."
Okay,
It had like a bird like pecking it.
Yes. That's like the only one that I knew of. That's the only album that I ever listened to.
Yeah.
I don't remember any of the track names of it all, but I remember listening to them and thinking like, damn, it was a good band, but like it was never someone that I like followed along with.
Yeah, they've been one of my all-time favorites.
They still like together?
Yeah.
I guess if they were just with Devil Wears Prada last year.
Yeah, their newest album, All Hail, is like really good too. But yeah, Oh God, the Aftermath. It was just like one of these albums where it was just like breakneck speed from like the beginning to the end. Just like there wasn't like a pause in between songs.
Yeah,
it was just like.
Are you someone that goes to like? Are you someone that do you explore new music? Because like I'm not someone who explores new music unless like it's pushed in front of my face. Like I'm usually like I'll listen to Chiodos, for the rest of my life, and I'm like you. It's like it's overwhelming for me to pick something. So it's either like I'll put on like Swimming by Mac Miller, like Chiodos, All's Well That Ends Well, or like Led Zeppelin or like Bone Thugs and Harmony or something. It's like I have like 10 albums that I'll always just like put on and play through. But I need to get more into music.
Yeah, for me, like I stream most of my stuff through Spotify.
Yeah,
and so they have like the kind of recommended for you stuff, and so I'll kick that on, and definitely have found some
good stuff,
some
on
new
there.
Interesting stuff through there. And at the shop, I mean, we're listening to music for 8-10 hours a day. Usually, there's always something on.
Yeah.
And so it's just always,
I can't remember what you were listening to whenever I walked in, but I was like, I think it was Kanye. I think Kanye was on whenever I picked up my last order, and I was like, there you go. And then it switched while I was there to a heavy song, and I can't remember what it was, and I was like, all right, it's good stuff.
Yeah, I mean that kind of sums up my.
I mean,
I don't know.
If you're in a workshop all day like that, it's like, you got to. Like whenever I worked at that Threads place, that's all I did was just have music on, and that kind of like forced me into like listening to new stuff because you can only listen to the same thing over and over and over again for so long until you want to get some new music. But That's all right. That's good stuff. So the one of the last questions that I ask is I'm sponsored by Turner's Tea, obviously. Okay, so I do this thing called the Turner's Crate, where I have everyone pick a question from the Turner's Crate. But I implemented this new question that I'm just gonna sponsor by Turner's. I'm going to just say that it's that because I'm very curious. So if you could walk into a gas station, if you're getting ready for a road trip and you could walk into a gas station and you can only pick one snack, like one snack, what would it be?
Combos.
Really? Dude, so many people. I think
Combos,
three
for
people,
sure.
the last three people have said combos.
I mean, it's horrible, but like
Man.
if you go into a gas station and need a snack, yeah, combos, man.
That's wild. The chef at Gecko, he said combos. Another person, who did I ask before? Or my buddy that we were talking in our group chat, because I asked that question in there. They said combos too, and it's like, it's interesting. Combos. I can't remember the last time I had one. I'm gonna have to go buy some.
Yeah, I don't do that frequently at all, but yeah. I mean that's it used to be like combos and chocolate milk, which is a horrible combination, but like hey,
That just like makes my stomach hurt thinking about
it's
it.
horrible. It's horrible.
That's funny. Okay, so the second to last question that I ask everyone is the death row meal. So if you're about to be put to death, what would your last meal be?
Man. I would say probably a pizza from Driftwood Oven.
I haven't been there yet. Everyone's been telling me about it.
It's so good. Like basically anything on their menu is really good.
You have to be the sixth person that's told me to go there, but I got to make it down there to get it.
Yeah. So I mean that and a beer.
What about a dessert?
A dessert. Yeah, maybe like a Leona's ice cream sandwich. They have like a chocolate and peanut butter one.
Man, I've only had
really good.
one in my life, a Leona sandwich, one in my life, and it was a snickerdoodle and eggnog ice cream.
Man, yeah.
And it was the only time I ever had one, and I was like, God, this was the best. I got to have more. I hit them up a while ago, but they were like, we're pretty busy right now. They were like, hit me up in wintertime, and we'll get on there. And I was like, all right, cool. So I'm going to try to work them into there. I kind of forgot about it until you just said that, so thanks for reminding me. Okay, so do you have a favorite beer? Like, you have a favorite brewery around here or anything?
I would say either Cinderlands or Dancing Gnome.
I know a lot of people like them.
Yeah.
I hear Dancing Gnome. I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know too much about them. I don't know too much about beers, but I hear that name a lot.
Yeah, they both of those companies are they're companies that I have the pleasure of working with. But then their beers are good.
All right. And the last question, if you could have a conversation with anyone alive or dead, who would it be and why?
Man.
I just read on my text in my group chat from the movie guy, Sean Connery died.
Oh, man.
R.I.P.
Wow.
Yeah. Crazy.
That's rough.
I was like, why the fuck is my phone lighting up so much?
Okay.
And they're having a conversation about Sean Connery's passing.
Yeah. Man, alive or dead?
It's a hard question. I feel that my answer changes almost daily.
Yeah.
Like I just watched this Comedy Store documentary, and I'm very, very big into comedy, and it's like to talk to Richard Pryor or Robin Williams. It's like Robin has been my answer for a lot, but like to talk to some of these like old comedians would be just like unreal to talk. Mitzi Shore, you know who that is?
No.
You know what the Comedy Store is?
No.
So the Comedy Store is like the mecca of all comedy. It's in LA, and it's just like where comedy like was like like cultivated. Like everyone working there, Freddie Prinze, Richard Pryor, Jay Leno, Dave Letterman, all these people. That's where they like all started out. And like watching this documentary, it was fantastic, and it just makes me think like, man, I want to talk to like Richard Pryor now.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm blanking on this.
That's all right. You could take as much time as you want. I'm going to cut out any downtime, but you have to come up with an answer.
Okay. It would probably be somebody having to do with like business.
Are you a Gary Vee guy?
No, I'm not familiar with him.
Yeah, never mind.
Okay.
Gary Vaynerchuk or whatever. I don't know. Everyone talks about him as being like, you know, the motivational business guy. He's basically the guy that's just like, get off your fucking ass and you got to get out there and just, and it's, I don't want that approach to things.
No, for me, I think it would be somebody more like a Sam Walton, or maybe like a Bill Gates, or just like
Bill Gates is in some heat right now.
Oh,
Bill Gates is in some, I don't
want to be like politically.
No, you're not. No, don't think that. I never talk about politics on this podcast because it's like, you know, it's like having a conversation with someone about like religion or something like that. Mm-hmm. There's no right answer. But Bill Gates would be super fascinating to talk to. He really, really would. There'd be a lot of, I don't do too much of like the reading like business books or anything like that. And I probably should, but you know, that would be a good answer for sure. He would be very interesting.
For me, I'd like to understand kind of like why you keep going into work when you have like
more money.
Like what drives you? Like what, like, and even more so, like what are your passions outside of like,
like what the hell does he do for fun?
So yeah, like one of those guys, just like
Sam Walton. I've never heard of him.
Well, he started Walmart.
Oh, really?
So
wow.
Yeah,
I have heard of him then.
But he was like a really just like down to earth guy, and like a, you know, just like your basic American guy, and just, you know, reading about him and learning a little bit about him, I feel like he would just be interesting to sit down with and just have a cup of coffee with or whatever.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
All right. I appreciate you coming over to talk to me about this.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm glad that we ended up doing this. I feel like it was long overdue.
Long threatened podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone else that's listening, well, actually, you know, promote all your stuff. Where could people find you? Where could people, you know, if people have shit that they want printed, you know, how do they get in contact with you? Promote your work.
Easiest way is Instagram at Revival Print Co. We've got a link on there. We can go to it. You can request a quote through there. You can obviously see a lot of the work that we've done on Instagram.
Everything that have that's in my shop has been printed at Revival. I've worked with Dan for a very long time, and like, you know, I feel like that's enough of a you know, it's proof. You know, like if I'm working with you, it's like I obviously like your work. People have gotten stuff on here. Someone just messaged me the other day and said that they loved the shirt. So you're the guy who prints them. Yeah. Revival Print Co. at Revival Print Co. on Instagram. And, you know, hit them up if you need anything. I appreciate everyone who's listening as usual. A lot of good stuff coming up. We got some Christmas shirts coming soon. I'm excited about. And, you know, if you could take a second to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast, it's a very big help. But thanks for listening, and I'll call you right back.